In this week's video, I make a return trip to Fresno after some encouraging words from the A-Liner community. Will our dream A-Liner pass inspection this time, and will I drive it home?
Oh!
Find out in this new video from Golden Canine Campers.
All right, guys, so this is part two of our A-Liner little journey. So I'm here in just outside of Fresno, California, and I was kind of talked into. I put a post in about the A-Liner and some of the problems I saw with it, and basically I was talked into that most people didn't think those were that much of an issue, and so came back and hopefully I can purchase. I gotta check it out. I didn't finish the inspection on the inside, but anyway, I'm going to continue my inspection, so I'll show you that once I get inside and start inspecting. Got the heat pump going right now. I think it's like 33 degrees, so it's a little chilly. So we'll get to see how good the heat pump works, and then we'll go from there. All right, bye. Continuing the inspection on the A-Liner, you can kind of hear the heat pump going. So it's blowing some pretty good hot air through these vents. One of the benefits of the permanent bed is that the exhaust for the heat and for the cooling actually comes all the way out into the trailer, whereas if it was a convertible sofa, it would be way back there. And so I think it does a better job of heating the trailer, so that's kind of nice. So now we're underneath the bed of the A-Liner. It's really nice how they prop it up. So it really makes it really easy to get down and get into the storage. So you could store everything down here. Everything looks perfect underneath here. No signs of leaking, no signs of anything. They do have some rodent stuff in here just to make sure that the rodents didn't get into anything. So that's nice. Water tank looks good. The hot water tank did have a little bit of condensation on it, but people said not to worry too much about that. And I don't see any sign of leaking, so I'm not going to worry about it. Still going to test the plumbing though. Looking underneath there, once again, see no sorts of signs of leaking, no sorts of signs of anything, any cables getting bitten into, so that's good. So yeah, everything looks perfectly fine underneath here. No problems at all, I think, to be concerned with. But continuing our inspection of the A-Liner, we're going to look underneath the storage area, under the sink, and see if they're, number one, making sure that the hardware works really nicely, and it does. Here's the storage underneath the microwave. Okay, and that does a really nice job. Let's go ahead and check underneath this cabinet. Yeah, it's as clean as can be. This looks basically like a totally brand new trailer here. No signs of any sort of leaking at all. So let's go ahead and look at the other storage area. Okay, so we don't have much storage underneath there, but a little bit. And this is underneath the microwave. Let's go ahead and open up this storage unit here. Check underneath here. Yeah, looks like other than just it being dusty, we have no sorts of issues inside the storage unit. No sort of potentially water damage or anything. Let's go ahead and look underneath here, see what kind of storage we got. Prop this open. Looks like they got their stove right here, so we can check that out in a little bit. Yeah, and this all is, once again, this is all brand new. Doesn't look like we have any sort of problems in here at all. Yeah, I was thinking I felt some soft spots in the wood over here. Yeah, but I'm not feeling any soft spots at all. Yep, so that's all looking good. Interesting, they mounted the, how they mount the fire extinguisher down here. Looks like it's within spec, it's green. I'm gonna go ahead and make the bed. So basically to make the bed is you take these little wood slats out of these guys, pull them out, and you kind of put them up here. And they give you, I guess, 4 of these. And you kind of just spread them out. It's probably easier to move your cushions out of the way first before you do this, and then you take your cushions. So these cushions are already set. So it looks like then you just take this cushion here, and then this cushion here, and it all fits nicely together. Somebody had mentioned that you could, maybe you put the table right here. Let me see. Let's see if you store here. Yeah. So interestingly enough, the table fits perfectly right in here. Maybe you could use less slats. I don't know why you wouldn't just use this in making the bed. I don't see why you wouldn't. It's a big old mystery. I don't know. Let's continue in our inspection. So we're gonna test the light. So I guess new for maybe 2022 or so, they replaced the previous lights with these LED lights. So yeah, they're really nice, kind of soft, bright lights. It's really cool. I like those. So it looks like we have that light over there. We have this light right here, kind of like an entry light. And then we have, over here, we have this light. And it works nicely. Here's our microwave, so pop that open. You can see they haven't used it at all. Turn it on real quick, see what happens. Okay, so that looks like it's working, like it's supposed to. It was trying to turn it. So microwave's working. Okay, so we checked the microwave. We need to check the furnace. We need to check the water. We need to check the Dometic fridge, and this is kind of new. I think this is new for 2022, but they went from a 3-way fridge to a 2-way fridge. It looks like on the unit itself is how you switch. So on, and now the lights come on. Now it's running on DC power. So if I hit this button, oh, it switches to gas. Okay. And it's trying to ignite. You can hear it trying to ignite. I like the fact that you don't have to go into the back of the unit anymore. Yeah, so it gave us an error. It says check. It wants us to check probably the gas. So we're gonna go ahead and switch back to the DC power. So switch there. Now it's back to DC. So we're gonna wanna turn the gas on and then have it ignite the gas and make sure that the fridge works at that temperature. And so now what we want to do is we want to turn it on to gas, and we should hear that try to ignite, try to light up. So we'll go ahead and switch to gas. And you actually hear that kind of starting to run right down there. So that's probably like a little fridge vent. So you can hear that thing running. All right, so let's turn this over to gas. So you just had to hit this button. So you can hear it trying to ignite right now. There we go. It says it's running on gas right now. I think we're probably good. So I think that actually is probably your best power source is gas, even better than 120 volt. But yeah, it seems like it's working. We didn't get a check light and we don't hear it trying to ignite again. So I think that ignited it and now it's running off of gas. So that's cool. That one works. That one works. That one's good. That one's good. Okay, so those are all good. So I'm gonna test the outside now. He gave me a little extension cable so I can try to plug this into the outside. See how that goes. Okay, that one works. Okay, that one works, no trips, so that's good. I think we're done testing the 120 volt. Looks like there's, say, 8 outlets. So we have 2 outlets here, 2 outlets here, that's 4, 2 outlets here, 6, and then we have 2 outlets on the outside. So that's 8. We have GFCI for 2 of the outlets. So looking at the breaker panel, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, so a total of 4 breakers, 1 for a 30, and then all the rest for 20. I'm assuming the 30 is for the heat pump, and then I'm assuming all the 20s are for, let's see, we have 2 with GFCIs. I would assume those are dedicated outlets. And then we have 1 over here and 1 back there. So that was interesting. So it looks like the heat pump shares power between this circuit and this circuit. Because when I turned this guy off, the heat pump turned off. And when I turned this guy off, the heat pump turned off. But when I turned this guy off, this turned off here. So it looks like both of these guys power the heat pump, and this guy powers the fridge as well. So I'm learning all kinds of interesting things. And I'm assuming the 20 then powers the outside, which makes sense. Okay, let's close this. So it looks like we only got one 12 volt, which is right here. And we also can test the CO2 detector. So let's go ahead and hit that button. So basically to test it, you just hit the button. Maybe you hold it. There we go. It's testing. So it looks like we're good. It goes back to green. What we're actually going to do over and above that is we're going to run our little butane lighter, and we're going to just give it some gas and see what happens. So what should happen is it should go on alert. We'll see. At least this was what somebody told me to do. Okay, so you have it running. Nothing. And yep, we set off the alarm. So that was great. This is a handy dandy tool to make sure that that was working like it's supposed to. All right, let's check the 12 volt. So let's test this. It says we're running at 13.5. We're pulling extra power. So I'm gonna have to test the battery again just to see what the reading is on that. So I am actually gonna unplug the electrical. I need to test everything with the 12 volt, with the battery. So let's go ahead and get started with that.
I got the battery right there in front of the...
Okay, did they charge it up?
Yes,
they said it was good?
Yeah, they said it was good.
Okay, let's hope. We were having issues with the 12 volt. Everything worked inside the trailer as far as electrical goes, but when I disconnected power, none of the 12 volt appliances worked. So I was assuming it was the battery. When I took the battery reading initially, it was reading 11.6 on the voltage, and so I assumed that that was the problem, that we had a bad battery. So Joe went to Walmart and had them charge it, and they got it up to 12.7 or so. It did drop, so when it was down here, it was down to 12.4. So long term, I'm a little concerned about that, but nothing worked. And you would think still at 12.4 something would work. So we were thinking if there was some sort of junction box in the A-liner, if there was some sort of breaker or fuse that was not working as it should, but I was like, well, I think there's a fuse right on the battery. And so what we did is there was a little fuse right here on the battery, and it's a 15 amp fuse. And so we pulled that out, and lo and behold, and yeah, it wasn't connected. Those little metal things, prongs, they weren't connected. And so luckily A-liner gives you a couple of extra fuses. And so we popped that sucker in, we got a spark, and I think we're gonna be good. So we'll test, but I think we're good. That's exciting. Okay, so we're disconnected from power. I have my nice little 12 volt meter here so that I can test the 12 volt inside the trailer. So we'll go here, we'll pop it in, and it's working. So right now it's giving us 12.3 volts. It's not where it should be. It really should be at 12.7, 12.8 volts. So I think that's gonna have to get replaced. And so I'm not sure how much those are, but I'm gonna have to replace that battery. I think I'll be okay driving it home. But the problem is if that battery goes all the way down, then I'm not going to have any sort of protection if I get disconnected from the trailer and the trailer needs to use the battery for braking, and if the battery doesn't have any power, then it's not going to be able to brake. So that's not ideal. All right. So one of the things that we're supposed to do is we need to check for leaks when we're filling up the water tank. So you can see I put some water in the water tank. I haven't filled it up all the way quite yet. So you can see that line right there. So as we're filling that water tank up, we want to make sure the filler tube, that there's no sort of leaking going on as you're putting water into the water tank. All right, so let me get in here and see what's going on. So you can kind of see some green light there coming from that filler tube. Really difficult to get in here to see much. So I'm gonna grab my light just to see if we can see any sort of moisture that's coming from that filler neck tube. And then, so I'm gonna grab my light real quick. Let's look at the floor. Let's see if we can get a good look at the floor. Yeah, okay, kind of, I can kind of see. I think the camera can see, I can't see. I'm gonna try to feel around down there in those areas to see if I can feel any sort of moisture. All right, so I'm not feeling any sort of moisture down there. Let me try to get into the filler neck tube and try to feel around that to see if there's any sort of moisture going on there. Yeah, nothing, just cold. Yep, so I'm not feeling any sort of moisture there. And now I'm feeling the ring that goes into the tank, and there is no moisture at all there. So that, to me, that indicates that there really isn't any sort of leaks going on between that filler neck tube and the water tank. So that's sealed pretty tight. So the next thing is we need to test the water tank as we pump water from the water tank both into the hot water tank and as well as to the sink. We need to check to see that there is no sort of leaking going on as that happens. Okay, so that's our next step. We're also going to test the hot water tank at the same time. And so I'm going to go ahead and get the propane turned on. And so we can test the propane system, because we really haven't tested the propane system at all yet. And we'll test the heater at that point after we test the hot water and the plumbing. Oh, and then the stoves. So we need to check the stoves, both the inside and outside connection. Oh, and we need to also test the shower connection for the hot water and cold water as well. So we got a lot of testing left to do. All right, get this guy running. So now we have propane in the lines. This is hot, this is cold, hot, cold, and this is on and this is off. So now we need to prime our pump. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the water pump on. Water pump has turned on. So I'm assuming that's gonna turn off after it's pressurized the system. So the only other thing when you're testing your pump plumbing is you want to make sure that you open up your drain outlet here and then have it going somewhere. I think that'll catch. We'll find out here in a second. Up all of your other storage locations as you are testing the water. So if there's going to be any sort of leaks, it's going to be underneath the sink or it's going to be over there. We should be primed and ready to go. Let's go ahead and get the sink started. And on. Go! Off. On. All the way. Off. So now let's turn the water heater on. Oh, just heard it. Try to light. We're going to try to light again. Oh, there it goes. That was the third time that it tried to ignite, and it finally ignited. So now that water heater is running. We should be getting some hot water soon. Let's see if we've got any sort of leaks going on. I don't see anything. Yeah, so they would have been in those lines, and I checked all those lines, and I'm not feeling any sort of leaking. I also felt those little rubber pipes. No sort of leaking there. Also looked underneath here and felt around up there where it makes its connections. There's no sort of leaking going on here. Down over here, there's no sort of leaking going on. Looks like water, hot and cold water, also go that direction. Maybe we actually do need to check over in the storage area back over here just to make sure. Let's pull this guy out. And let's pull this guy off just to make sure. Oh, that's the shower. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. You actually probably should pull out and go into this storage area and look and make sure there's no sort of leaks going on in the shower area. So I'm gonna let it run I'm gonna let that water heater run just for a little bit while longer while we test the outside shower. All right, you guys, so I looked at the user's manual and I found out that whenever you use the water pump, it automatically pressurizes the lines as well as fills up the hot water tank. The other thing I didn't know is that when you connect to city water, and I don't know if everybody knows this, but as soon as you connect to city water, it also pressurizes the lines and it fills the hot water tank. Definitely make sure that you, after your trips, after you use that water, you need to make sure that you drain that hot water tank. Let's open this guy up. There we go. And let's check our shower and see if we got some hot water. We've got our water pump on, so the water should be working. So let's test this one. We're gonna turn the cold water on. Okay, that's good. And we can turn it off by hitting this button. Turn that back on again. Turn it off. And we're getting some kind of cold water. Yeah, this thing is kind of leaky. Yeah, so they go different ways. That's kind of confusing. So right now they're off. This is hot water. Confusing. That's hot, supposedly, but we're getting cold. I think they got the lines mixed up. Turn it off, and here's cold. And that's hot. Okay. Yeah, so I did verify that the hot water is actually run to this valve right here, and the cold water is actually run to this one right here. So not a huge deal. But obviously we've got some quality control issues, and then we have some leaking that also comes from this guy. So as we turn this on and then we turned it off, we're getting some leaking kind of coming from it. And test the city water connection. So we have this, I guess the A-liner gives you this water pressure regulator, so we need to install that. So now we're connected to the city water. We put the pressure regulator over on the hose side, and so we've got this guy connected. So yeah, so this would be filling up the hot water tank if it wasn't already filled up, and it's pressurizing the system. So now let's check the water with the city water connection. All right, so the water pump is off. So we're gonna run the water just for a little bit. So that's the hot side, that's the cold side. And now we're gonna run it. So now we're running off the city water. So it's probably switching over now from the pump. This water is kind of funky, man. All right, I think we're good. I think it's now pressurized. And I think for the most part, it's running well now. Let's check the hot water. So we will switch this over to hot and push over, and let's see what we got. Woo! That is steaming hot, buddy. Steaming hot. All right. And back over to cold. Okay, so once again, we're gonna look at our connections underneath, making sure that there's no sort of leaks. Now, I don't imagine there's gonna be any sort of different leak coming out of here, right? Because it's just basically using the same water connection. So that shouldn't be any sort of a problem. So obviously we're good there. The only thing that's different now is that the water is, instead of coming from the water pump and the water tank, which is right there, it's coming directly from over there somewhere. Connected over here. Let's look underneath. Sure, there's nothing, no funny business going on. I think I made a mistake. I've got to believe this is the freshwater drain valve, and over here, that's got to be for the hot water. And so that's got to be the hot water valve. And so they said in the owner's manual to get rid of the hot water, you actually had to use the Allen rod to do that. But I think that's actually incorrect. So good info. So all right, guys, so we tested the propane for the water heaters. So let's go ahead and test the stove. All right, so we have our gas stove out, and actually one of the things I really like about the Classic as opposed to the Ranger is that this is removable. So I don't think we're gonna have the stove and we're gonna cook inside very much. This is probably just gonna go outside. And so yeah, you can hook this onto the outside, and there's a propane connector on the outside where you can do all your cooking. Yeah, so that's really cool. But if it does happen to be cold and maybe for some reason it's raining or whatever and you wanna cook inside, you can still do that. So it has these nice little panels for keeping all the flames and stuff like that away from your trailer. The only bad thing I don't like is you don't have any easy way of connecting it up. So you actually have to remove your, well, it's not difficult, but when you're camping, you know, you want to make everything as easy as possible. And actually, you see, that's the propane connector right there. So we have to undo this. And so I don't think you can actually just push down on it to connect. That doesn't work. You actually need to push down here and then push it in and push a little bit harder, because then it snaps back. And then you're connected. So yeah, it's kind of a pain. And then we have this valve here too. So then you have to also do this guy right here to open the gas line. So yeah, a lot of steps. I don't anticipate very often using this in here, but we'll see. Turn this on. There we go. Now we got gas. You need your cigarette lighter or something like that to light it. There we go. We are cooking with gas. It's all the way off. All right, let's check the other one, make sure it works. Yep, everything works good there. So now I'm gonna take it outside and make sure the connector works fine outside. One thing I am noticing, so this thing is kind of high. I'm level with the camper here. I mean, obviously this works okay for me, but I don't know how my wife's gonna feel about this one. Anyway, so let me test it. Yeah, I think we're fine. I don't think you see it on camera. I don't think you see that, but I can certainly feel it. Checking the furnace. All right, so here we've got our Suburban furnace right here. Right now it's in the off position. It's a little over 80 degrees in here right now, so we're gonna turn this guy all the way up to the top. There we go. All right, so she starts running. It should start kicking out some warm heat really quickly. Already getting pretty warm. Let's look at what the temperature says. Yeah, 231. Yeah, that's pretty hot. Yeah, there we go. We're up to 300 degrees inside of there. Yeah, it's pretty warm. If our intention is to leave with this A-liner, we need to make sure it's roadworthy, and so looks like it wants you to maintain 50 psi inflation pressure. So we're going to make sure we bring that up to 50 psi. So I brought along, and so if you remember, one of the things I recommended is the tire pressure meter for sure. So I did, and I read that at 30, and this is also reading 30, but we need to bring that up to 50. All right, so wait for that to get done, and then go from there. I'll get the other side as well. I set all the tire pressure to 50 psi, and the other thing I'm doing is I'm torquing the lug nuts down to 100 foot-pounds. So I've got this nice torque wrench for doing that. Also got the spare tire just in case, and I checked to make sure I could remove the lug nuts on the spare tire just in case there was some sort of blowout. So I've got the parts for that, so that's good. And we're all at 50 psi on all the tires, so we're in pretty good shape. I actually did have them replace the battery just because, yeah, it kept going low, so it was only at 12.4 volts. So just to be safe, I just wanted to make sure. So, hi everyone. Well, I safely made it home from Fresno, and I'm proud to say that I'm a new owner of a used 2022 A-Liner Classic. Yeah. One piece of advice. I really recommend that you give yourself at least one day to inspect your A-Liner, especially if this is your first A-Liner. So unfortunately, there was a couple of things that I left out for the video. It was getting really late in day and I was running short on time, so I had to speed things up a bit. I had to finish the purchasing for the A-Liner and get all the paperwork done. I also had to test the towing of the A-Liner just to make sure it towed properly, and I also had to install my wireless brake controller and get it configured correctly. But maybe that's a topic for a future video. So we've already went on 2 camping trips since we've had our A-Liner. We went to Lake Mead, the Boulder Beach, and it's really a beautiful location. And we also went to Valley of Fire, which is so beautiful. And I gotta tell you, we really love our A-Liner Classic. In fact, we love it so much that we've named our A-Liner Vinny. Anyhow, if you got some value from this video, please consider liking it, as that will really help my channel, and also consider subscribing. And I can't wait to see you again on some new adventures coming up.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.